If you love ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and everything that goes bump in the night, then mark your calendars for the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo, happening September 26 in Mayfield, Kentucky at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds. This incredible one-day event brings together some of the biggest names in the paranormal community, including Aaron G. Thompson from Netflix's 28 Days Haunted, Jimmy and Jeffrey from Outlaw Paranormal, The Wind of Rose, Josh Morris, Michael Huntington, Rachel Ravensville, and many, many more special guests and speakers. Your admission is just $15, and that gets you an all-day come-and-go wristband so you can explore at your own pace, browse more than 35 vendors, enjoy delicious food trucks, attend speaker presentations and panels, meet investigators, hear incredible stories, and dive into the worlds of hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and the unexplained. Whether you're a seasoned ghost hunter or just curious about the mysteries that surround us, there's something for everyone at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, visit West Kentucky Paranormal Expo on Facebook and get ready for one of the most exciting paranormal events of the year. We'll see you in Mayfield on September 26th. There are places where tragedy leaves behind silence. Old battlefields, abandoned hospitals, forgotten prisons. And then there are places where the tragedy seems to hide behind laughter, waiting until the applause dies down before making itself known. In Nashville, on the corner of 8th Avenue and Douglas Avenue, sits a building that has entertained generations. Today it's known as one of Middle Tennessee's premier comedy clubs. It's a place where audiences gather to forget their worries, for a few hours anyway. Every weekend, the room fills with laughter. Drinks are poured, comics chase their dreams under bright stage lights, and strangers become friends over shared jokes. But long after the audience goes home, some people believe someone else is still waiting backstage. I'm Alan Sircy, the American Haunt Historian. This is Southern Ghost Stories. Tonight, we're exploring the ghost of comedian Ron Douglas. The building itself dates back to 1954. Long before comedians ever stepped onto the stage, it operated as a neighborhood five-and-dime store. Customers wandered its aisles buying everyday necessities, never imagining that decades later the building would become one of Nashville's most recognizable entertainment venues. Nothing about its appearance hinted that one day it would become associated with one of the city's most enduring ghost stories. To understand the haunting, though, you first have to understand the man who's at the center of it all. Ron Douglas didn't grow up dreaming about ghosts. He dreamed about making people laugh. Raised in Chicago, Ron developed an early fascination with comedy and the complicated relationship between race in America. Rather than avoiding uncomfortable subjects, he learned to use humor to explore them. After graduating from DePaul University with a sociology degree, friends convinced him to try performing during open mic nights. It didn't take long for audiences to notice something different about him. His comedy wasn't simply joke after joke. Ron understood people. He understood tension, misunderstanding, and prejudice, and he found ways to make audiences laugh at the very things that often divided him. His observations about black and white Americans interacting with one another were sharp without being cruel, thoughtful without being preachy. Crowds loved him. Before long, the small clubs, they weren't enough. Ron began appearing at Chicago's famous Playboy Club, one of the hottest entertainment venues in the city. It was there talent scouts noticed his act. Suddenly, the struggling comedian found himself opening for some of the biggest names in entertainment. Louis Armstrong, Tony Bennett, Barry Manilow. Night after night, he stood before packed houses, warming up audiences for legendary performers. To most people, it probably looked like Ron had made it. But life on the road isn't nearly as glamorous as it might appear. Comedians spend countless hours alone. Airports, cheap hotel rooms, endless highways. They perform while everyone is celebrating, then finish work at 2 or 3 in the morning after crowds have gone home. Relationships become difficult to maintain. They miss family gatherings. Birthdays come and go in unfamiliar cities. The stage may last an hour. The loneliness lasts the other 23. Like many entertainers before him, Ron began relying on alcohol to help fill those lonely hours. At first it probably seemed harmless, a drink after the show, another one while sitting alone in the hotel room. Eventually those drinks became necessary just to get through the day. Alcohol slowly stopped being a reward, and it became a requirement. By the early 1980s, Ron understood what was happening. He checked himself into rehab, determined to beat the addiction before it destroyed everything he had worked so hard to build. Friends hoped this would be the turning point, and for a while it appeared they were right. Then the road called him back. Unfortunately, sobriety is difficult when every performance ends in a nightclub where drinks are flowing freely. Every evening placed temptation only a few feet away. Little by little, Ron slipped back into his old habits. The man who once made thousands of people laugh was quietly losing a battle very few around him truly understood. Then came May 21st, 1984. That evening, Ron arrived at Zany's, which was Nashville's comedy club, and he was already intoxicated. His performance reflected it. Management watched as the show deteriorated and eventually made a painful decision. Ron Douglas was fired. Not only was he dismissed from that night's performance, he was informed he would no longer be welcome to perform there ever again. For someone whose identity revolved around making folks laugh, those words must have landed like a hammer. Losing a job is difficult. Being told you no longer belong where you built your career, it's devastating. Many people, when they reach rock bottom, begin looking for a way out. Ron, he chose another drink. Instead of leaving, he quietly slipped upstairs after everyone assumed he'd gone home. Hidden behind the bar, he waited patiently while employees closed the club and locked the doors. When the last person finally left for the night, Ron emerged from his hiding place. He walked downstairs into the green room, alone, no audience, no spotlights, only bottles. No one knows exactly how many drinks he consumed that night. What is known comes from what someone discovered the following morning. Early the next day, the club's custodian unlocked the building, and he began his usual routine, sweeping the floors, emptying trash cans, cleaning up after another night of entertainment. When he entered the green room, he found Ron asleep on the couch. At least, that's what he thought. Scattered around the room were empty vodka bottles overflowing from a nearby trash can. Ron appeared to be snoring heavily. Not wanting to disturb him, the custodian quietly continued working elsewhere in the building. Hours passed. Eventually, he returned to the green room. Something immediately felt wrong. The snoring had stopped. Ron wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. An ambulance was called right away, but there was nothing anyone could do. Somewhere during the quiet hours after the audience had gone home, Ron Douglas had taken his final breath. His career ended not beneath bright lights, but alone in the same building where he had once hoped to make people laugh. Most people assumed that would be the end of Ron Douglas' story. But according to countless employees at the comedy club, it was only the beginning. After Ron died, the club tried to move forward. Another comedian would take the stage the next night, the lights would come back on, drinks would be poured, and audiences would laugh just as they always had. In show business, the saying goes that the show must go on. But within a matter of a week, something happened that made employees wonder if Ron had ever really left the building at all. One afternoon, a woman walked up to the box office hoping to buy a ticket for that evening's show. The employee behind the counter politely explained that there wasn't a performance scheduled that night, but assured her there'd be one the following evening. The woman looked confused. She insisted she'd just spoken to an African-American comedian standing outside the building. According to her, the comic had smiled, pointed toward the entrance, and told her to go inside and purchase her tickets. Thinking perhaps one of the comedians had stopped by, the employee asked if she knew his name. She admitted she didn't. As she continued talking, however, her eyes drifted toward a wall covered with hundreds of publicity photographs of comedians who had performed at the club over the years. She slowly walked over to one photograph in particular. She pointed at it and calmly said, "That's him." The employee's heart sank. The picture she was pointing at, it belonged to Ron Douglas. Word of the strange encounter spread quickly through the staff. Some dismissed it as a simple case of mistaken identity. Others weren't so sure. Ron had been well known around the club, and while another comedian could have resembled him, the timing felt unsettling. For employees still grieving his sudden death, the encounter planted an uncomfortable question. What if Ron was still hanging around the place he loved most? Not long afterward, another incident only added to the mystery. The club held open mic nights every Tuesday, giving aspiring comedians a chance to perform and get their feet wet on stage. Earlier in the day, an unknown comedian arrived and signed his name on the performance list. The assistant manager looked up as the man introduced himself, and he immediately froze. There was something hauntingly familiar about his face. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was looking at someone he knew. Later, former general manager Lenny Sisselman recalled the story. According to him, the assistant manager came running to find him, insisting over and over, "I swear to you, it's Ron Douglas. I'm telling you, it's Ron Douglas." The news spread through the building almost instantly. Employees whispered backstage while comedians gathered around the sign-up sheet. Everyone waited to see if the mysterious performer would take the stage. As the evening progressed, anticipation grew. Finally, the MC called out the comedian's name. Silence. He called it again. Still, nothing. Whoever had signed up, they vanished without a trace. No one remembered seeing him leave. It was as though he'd simply disappeared. Some laughed it off, joking that Ron had ghosted the show. Others weren't laughing anymore. As the years passed, strange occurrences reportedly became part of everyday life inside the club. Employees claimed doors occasionally locked by themselves for no apparent reason. Footsteps echoed across empty floors after closing time. Staff working late would sometimes hear someone running up and down the staircase, only to discover there wasn't another person anywhere in the building. Objects seemed to move without explanation. None of the experiences were violent or threatening, nothing malevolent, but they were persistent enough that longtime employees began referring to the unseen presence simply as Ron. Eventually, new hires were introduced to the stories, almost like it was part of the orientation process. One former employee that I've been friendly with experienced something that forever changed the way he viewed the stories. Before the club opened one afternoon, he was helping prepare the dining room when he suddenly watched a menu jump off a table. It didn't slowly slide to the floor or tip over from being unbalanced. According to my friend, it shot up in the air before landing several feet away. Startled, he immediately asked if anyone else had seen it. Rather than appearing surprised, one of his coworkers laughed and said, "Hey, that's Ron Douglas." To them, the incident, it wasn't unusual at all. My friend wasn't really ready to believe in ghosts. He assumed that there was maybe a logical explanation. Maybe an air conditioning vent had created enough airflow. Perhaps someone was walking nearby had stirred the air without noticing it. But months later, he watched another menu perform the same exact possible movement. This time, he and another employee began experimenting. They adjusted air vents. They tested fans, walked around the tables, and tried everything they could think of to recreate what they had witnessed. Nothing worked. No matter what they tried, they couldn't make another menu move the way those two had. Whatever caused it, it remained unexplained. The most remarkable encounter reportedly occurred after an especially busy night. A sold-out show had kept employees working until nearly 3 in the morning. Once the customers finally left and cleanup was finished, several staff members decided to kick back, relax with a few drinks before heading home. As he sat talking in the nearly empty club, my friend happened to glance toward the ceiling. One hanging lamp was gently swinging back and forth. Oddly, every other light fixture in the room hung perfectly still. Curious, he climbed upstairs to inspect it, convinced someone must have just bumped it as a prank. The layer of dust covering the fixture was undisturbed. There was no fingerprints, no signs that anyone had touched it. Eventually, the lamp slowed until it just stopped moving altogether. The employees joked about what they had seen, and one of them decided to test the legend. Looking toward the empty room, he called out, "Hey, Ron, if that's you, I dare you to make it move again." Almost immediately, the lamp began swinging once again. The room fell silent. What made the moment even stranger was the lamp's location. It hung directly above the old liquor closet, an area that once had served as the original green room, the very room where Ron Douglas had spent his final hours drinking alone before his death in 1984. Years later, while researching this story, I visited the comedy club hoping someone would be willing to speak to me on the record about Ron Douglas and the strange events that supposedly took place in the comedy club. Well, no one wanted to discuss the ghost stories publicly. Whether that was out of skepticism, respect, or simply a desire to keep the focus on comedy instead of ghost stories, I can't really say. But as I was leaving, one employee smiled and quietly summed up the legend in a single sentence. "I've never seen a ghost," the employee told me, "but there are some stories." Maybe that's the perfect ending for Ron Douglas. A comedian spends his life trying to make people remember them. But most performers hope their legacy lives on through recordings, stories, or the laughter they leave behind. If the tales from that old comedy club are true, perhaps Ron found another way to make sure no one can forget him. Even now, decades after his final performance, people still speak his name backstage. They still tell new employees about the footsteps on the stairs, the moving menus, and the swinging lamp above the room where one lonely comedian took his last drink. And if you happen to visit that old building someday there on 8th Avenue, and you hear footsteps overhead after everyone else has gone home, you might just wonder whether Ron Douglas is still waiting for one more show. I'm Alan Sircy, the American Historian. If you want to learn more about the Haunted Comedy Club, check out my book, Southern Ghost Stories, South Nashville. Lots of fun hauntings in South Nashville, Union Station, Belmont Mansion. I grew up in South Nashville. It's my old stomping grounds. And Southern Ghost Stories, South Nashville. It's one of my favorite books. And speaking of books, have you got my latest one yet? Pistols at Red River. Man, it's a whole lot of fun. It's a true story of Andrew Jackson and a duel he was involved in 1806. 1806, man, it was a wild time to be alive. The book's available on Amazon. You can read it on Kindle. In fact, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read the book for free. It's hard to beat free. All my books are on Kindle Unlimited. If you want to check out Southern Ghost Stories, South Nashville, it's on there. It's also free. And also, while we're at it, we're trying to reach 150 Apple Podcast reviews and 100 Spotify reviews before Halloween. If you enjoyed the show, take 45 seconds to leave a review. It really helps people discover Southern Ghost Stories. Apple uses ratings and reviews to decide which shows to recommend. A quick review helps other people who love folklore and ghost stories to find the podcast. And speaking of which, don't forget, I'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee, July 31st through August 2nd for CreepyCon. CreepyCon is one of the largest horror conventions in Tennessee. I'll be there signing books in the Southern Ghost Stories booth. You'll see icons of horror like Kane Hodder or Bill Moseley. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you want free tickets, I'm giving a pair away. All you have to do is leave a review for the podcast and send a screenshot at southernghoststories@gmail.com. I'll pick a winner from a hat and announce it live on the show. And have you guys been to MonsterCityMadhouse.com yet? Monster City Madhouse, man, their new shirt's a whole lot of fun. Gravestone, featuring a mashup of Tombstone and the Universal Monsters. This Monster City Madhouse exclusive shirt is made from a comfortable 60-40 polyester cotton blend, with quotes like, "I'm your Huckleberry and hell's coming with me." You'll be ready to unleash monster justice. Use promo code SAVE10 to get 10% off your order. That's right, go to MonsterCityMadhouse.com, use promo code SAVE10 for 10% off. And also, be sure to like Southern Ghost Stories on Facebook and Instagram. Been posting a lot of reels on Facebook lately for episodes of the show. And you can send questions to southernghoststories@gmail.com for a future Q&A episode. Thank you for listening. I'm Alan Sircy, the American Historian, and I will see you guys tomorrow, another brand new episode. If you love ghost stories, folklore, and all things mysterious, you need to make a trip to Haunted in downtown Tullahoma, Tennessee. Just a short drive from Nashville, this family-owned Gothic shop is filled with the strange, unusual, and downright fascinating. This isn't a big box store full of mass-produced decorations. Haunted specializes in handmade curiosities, Gothic decor,
metaphysical supplies, green witchcraft essentials, and unique pieces created by independent artists. Whether you're decorating or just looking for something you won't find anywhere else, Haunted is worth the trip. Visit them on 125 West Lincoln Street in Tullahoma, or shop online at hauntedstore.net. That's right, hauntedstore.net. Haunted, curated for the strange and unusual.
Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts, with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing's available.